I typically like to play some music, while people come in because you're just sitting here just looking like, always feels a little awkward. So, hello, everybody. We'll get started in about 2 to 3 minutes. Still waiting to see if there's a few more people who might pop in. Just to give you a heads up, we are recording this meeting like we do with most of our chai chats, if not all of our chai chats. And if you don't want to be on camera, just definitely leave your camera off and it won't record you. It might record your voice, though, if you do speak up, which we hope you do. So I think we can get started. There are a couple of people who registered who might pop in a little bit later, but I want to welcome you all to another Chai Chat. Thank you for spending another Tuesday night with us. As a Philadelphia resident, this topic is near and dear to my heart with the things that have been happening, not only this year, last night, but just in general. I felt like this is a conversation that we as Drexel should have been having a long time ago and should continue to have. And I would love to read this gentleman's bio, but I feel like I wouldn't do it justice. Tonight, we have a member of Ceasefire PA, and I'm excited to have him here with us to not only talk about the work that he does with Ceasefire, but as also a Philadelphian as well. He might be able to give us a little bit of insight of the things that he's seen throughout his time in the city and where we hope to go. So for no further intro needed from me, I'll stop talking, get off my soapbox, and pass it to our esteemed guest of the night.
How you doing, guys? Thanks for having me. Like Murray said, this is really dear to my heart with everything that's going on in the city right now. Emotions is like at its peak with a lot of folks. So I'm glad all you guys are interested in what's going on out here. I am more organized at Ceasefire, so my job is right now I'm working on building a coalition of gun violence organizations throughout the city. Philadelphia has hundreds of gun violence organizations that received grants last year, the year before that, and the year before that. But the problem is they all work on different things and their voices tend not to be heard because they're not strong enough. So my job is to try to get all these organizations together to work on one common agenda and all get on the same page to make our voices louder in Harrisburg. I've been with Ceasefire for about a month, but I've been a community activist, probably my mom was a committee woman for 25 years, so she always told us the importance of voting and holding elected officials accountable. I took this job on because, I didn't go to school for this. I didn't study this. I actually lived it. You know what I mean? So it kind of made me the perfect match for the job. Growing up in North Philadelphia, I witnessed my first death by firearm maybe at the age of 7. I didn't physically see it, but I remember, going to school with my best friend every day. And my best friend, we was walking and his dad used to stop to give us dollars every day. And then one day I knew something really, really bad happened to his dad. And it was on the same route where we went to school every day. So every day we would walk by like pictures of his dad. There were balloons. And I was so young, I couldn't understand. I'm like, what happened to your dad? Like, that's the picture of your dad. They're celebrating your dad. And as I grew older, it was heartbreaking once I realized what actually happened to him and the routes he took in life. And he's actually, he actually died to gun violence also, by taking the wrong route in life. You know what I mean? So, and, and with me, my own parents, I fight for this ERPO law. Is an ERPO law that's called Extreme Risk Protection Order. It's for the help with suicides and attempt suicides and stuff like that. And that's if your family member owns a gun, or maybe a close friend owns a gun, and you see they kind of mentally ill, or they threaten people with it. They're not responsible with it, and you feel scared for your life. You're able to go to court and get his firearms taken away for 10 days, and have a hearing on why you felt, your safety was at risk, and if this person should get their firearms back. And we're fighting for that bill now, which is still haven't got across. You know what I mean? And my father, a personal story of mine, my father came back from the military at a young age. He went to the military at 17, and he came back at 22, 23 with some mental issues, like a lot of troops come back with. And him and his best friend him and his couple friends, along with his best friend, were at the table playing with firearms, being 22-year-olds in an urban community, and he made a mistake of killing his friend. And my father did 18 years for that. You know what I mean? And me, I was really young, but the story I get, my father didn't really have it all when he came home, and he had a lot of firearms, and he was allowed to carry them firearms. And I was thinking, like, what if that ERPO law was made years ago? My mom would have been able to go to court and get his firearms taken away, and I would have had my complete family. So it's just a little stuff like that. I worked on criminal justice reform before coming in here with an organization called FAM, Families Against Mandatory Minimums. I work with them a lot. I got a chance to, you want to hear a exciting story? I got a chance, I don't know if you guys know, a few years ago, they passed a bill where they had to let all the juvenile lifers go. So it's a lot of guys I met a couple guys that did 40 or 50 or 60 years, and they was 16, 15, 13 years old. And hooray, they got their life back. But the biggest problem with me was they were considered lifers, so they couldn't do the small programs that people was going home could do. They couldn't get their GED, they couldn't get work study, because these are the guys that was never going home. The state didn't see fit for these guys to get any type of programs. And then the state flipped, and these guys are home with nothing, no type of education. They basically stuck in the same place they was when they went in at 16, but then they're in their 50s, 60s, 70s. And that's stuff that going on in my community. That's stuff I see in my community. So I try to put my hands on and really do something about it. That's just always been me, being that bridge between community and elected officials. But like I said, this gun violence, it rules my heart. I believe it's too easy to get a firearm. It's easier to get, a firearm than it is to get your high school diploma in this city. And I'm not just saying that because I believe that. I'm saying it because I know that. I don't want to take your time. I want to do a little icebreaker. I kind of want to meet all you guys. I kind of want to know who I'm talking to and where you guys from. So that's kind of enough for me. I'm going to get back in it. I'll let you hear some things from you guys. Maybe where you're from, where do you study, what brings you to Drexel, what brings you to this meeting? I'm sorry. I just want to know more about you guys, what brings you to the meeting, and where you're from, and have a little icebreaker if that's okay with you guys.
Definitely okay. Everybody answer at once, of course. Go ahead.
I can start if y'all want. Hey, I'm Zach. I am from right outside of Philly, from Montgomery County. I'm a global studies major focusing on justice and human rights. And I also work for the SCDI as a student coordinator. So I'm here partially because it's my job, but also partially because, like, why wouldn't I be here? This is important.
I'm Rowan. I'm from State College and Penn State. And I'm a legal studies and political science major, and I'm just part of the Chai Chats team. But I also have a passion for criminal justice reform. And so thanks for coming.
Hey, I'm Adriana. I'm from Peru, and I'm an international student at Drexel. I study economics, and I'm here because I definitely want to get informed better about the situation, and definitely hearing your perspective is going to be very helpful for me. So, and also I'm part of the CDI team. So,
Hey everybody, I'm Tiana. I'm an engineering student, a junior engineering student, and also work at CDI. So it's very interested to hear what was going on and see some familiar faces.
As you
For
see,
coming.
we run deep on this side a little bit, just a little. But like I wanted to make sure that we had our students here, and I already explained who I am, and I'm the old guy in the room. But because like I being from the city and working at Drexel, I realized there's a lot of disconnect of Philadelphia and Drexel. Like if we're in the city technically, but we're not of the city. It feels like, and I think that a lot of these conversations, and I remember when Philly was the murder capital of America in '06. Like I remember that very vividly, and we're back in those types of times, and being from North specifically, North is usually one of the worst areas when it comes to gun violence. And this is a conversation that I'm happy that we're recording it because we can put it to the masses. But I want to really thank you again for being here and really being able to educate my team and my students, because without them, we wouldn't be where we are in my department. But we got to keep growing it and always keep educating ourselves with these types of conversations.
Yes, sir. Well, thanks for having me, man. Nice to meet all you guys again. Honestly, I think wherever is more guns, it's tending to be more gun violence. It's too easy to get a gun in Pennsylvania. Um, there is no waiting period. You don't need a license or a permit to buy a firearm in Pennsylvania. There's no training required, meaning you can go buy the biggest gun and you can leave out without any training, which is really a problem. There's no limit on guns you could buy. And you can sit there, you can pass a background check, and you can buy 100 guns. You can walk out the door with 100 guns, which is really a problem. There's no regulation on sale of ammo, meaning you can go buy as much ammo as you want. So the people that say guns don't kill people, bullets do, there's still no regulation on ammo. Private sales don't require a background check. Now you ask me what a private sale is. When you go inside a licensed gun dealer, you have to do a background check to leave with a firearm. But with private sales, with long guns, that's any guns longer than 10 inches, there's usually shotguns or assault rifles. You don't need to do a background check, meaning anybody in the city or the state can go buy a shotgun, assault rifle from anybody, and that person don't have to look at that person ID. I don't have to do a background. Like a young black kid from Philadelphia and going to suburbs, and or somebody from suburbs come to Philadelphia and they could buy an assault rifle that holds 100 rounds, and they could say they don't have to ask this guy where he lived, why he wanted. There's no questions asked. Sign this paper, take this gun, and I have a good day. And as you see, that's why we have a lot of big guns on the streets today. A lot. I want to get on to.
Can I just ask something clarifying? So you need to do a background check for like pistols, stuff like that, but an assault rifle you don't?
Anything over 10 inches, you don't have to. Shotguns, assault rifles, anything. But pistols, yes, you have to do a background check.
Yeah,
It's so many holes in this thing that they really don't want us to know of. Another one is, at this time, the city is actually suing the state for not keeping the citizens safe. The lobbyists at NRA are really tough. The way the things work is, the city can sue. The NRA can bankrupt the city with ease. So the city is scared to change gun laws. And the way it's hooked up in court, if the NRA win in court, the city will have to pay the NRA lawyer fees and their own. And if they lose, they will have to pay the NRA lawyer fees and their own. And most likely they're going to lose because that stuff falls under the amendment. So cities are scared to keep their own selves, and no mayor, no governor want to be that guy that bankrupt the city, so everybody is really on edge. 306 people are shot daily in the USA, and 111,000 people are shot every year. Pennsylvania, has 1,600 gun deaths every year, as in 2017. Having a firearm in a house, that triples the risk of suicide. We need to know that. We need to know the safeties of guns. My thing is, and ceasefire, we don't believe that we need to take guns out the world. We feel like people need to be held accountable for their firearms. We have ERPO, like I spoke on, that helps with mass shootings and suicides, and that usually works a lot out in state college and places like that, because that's where mass shootings and suicides happen. But that tend not to be the conversation in Philadelphia. The big conversation in Philadelphia for us is lost and found. Now, this thing with lost and found, I feel like it's tearing our city up. Like I said, a person is able to go buy 100 guns and just take them home. And if you're a gun owner and you lose your gun within 48 hours, if you lose your gun, you don't have to report it. It's not up to you to report it. It's not against the
Lil, you got muted again, my man.
Here we go. Am I good?
Yeah, you're good. Now, last thing you said was if you lose your gun, and then you kind of cut out.
Okay. Meaning the police could find a smoking gun on the scene. They can knock on your door and ask you, why is your gun at the scene? We found your gun at the crime of a scene. And all you have to say is, oh, my gun was stolen, I don't know. And you're not held accountable for anything. So my thing is, a lot of these people is buying hundreds of guns. You got a drug problem in Philadelphia, and people doing stuff for money and stuff like that. So what's stopping people from going and buying 100 guns coming through Philadelphia, where they know the crime rate is high, the demand for firearms is high, and selling them? So there's no accountability for lost and found. So what we're working on now is accountability for firearms. The gun owner will be held accountable financially in other ways for any damage done with their firearm. You know what I mean? Safety. There's no regulations where you have to put a gun lock on your firearm, and we feel like it should be. We feel like if it's somebody in a home, we have policy and order. If it's somebody in a home that's not permitted to carry a firearm, maybe because of age or because of background, then the gun. It's just, any questions so far?
Yeah, I actually have a couple comments that I would like to say. So, as a person who has a legal permit to carry, it blew my mind how harder it was for me to get my driver's license to actually get my gun permit. Like, it was literally $20 money order, 2 bills that prove where I live, and then it was a short, brief questionnaire. And the questionnaire was like, will you hurt yourself? And I was like, well, how do you know if I'm going to tell the truth about this? Like, this is just, you're going to say what you need in order to get what you want. And I realized really quickly that there are almost no requirements when it comes to safety with almost anything related to guns in Philadelphia, at least. Like, and it really tripped me out. Like, I was like, so you're telling me I got my permit, I can just go do that, and nobody ever has to know how well I can do this, like how well I can shoot, if I have a place to put it that's safe, all of these things, and nobody really speaks to it. And I realized as well, as I've gotten a little bit older, I don't know if you can speak to this at all, that there is such an influx of guns from all over the place that infiltrate Pennsylvania, and nobody ever really is accountable for it. When I was a kid, there were guns that said made in Iraq, made in Russia. I know one person who had a passport. And I was like, what is all of this kind of stuff? And it feels like it just is a perpetual cycle. And the people who are dying by the hands of guns are always looked at as it's their fault. Like, we blame the victim on the people who died, as opposed to blaming the issue of how it happened.
I agree. I totally agree. I feel like, in Philadelphia, where we have that drug problem, where we have all these type of problems of people doing stuff for monetary value, that's going to be a problem unless we crush that loophole. That loophole has been open for years. I feel like that's the one that's really killing us. And we fight in between making policy, whereas, if a person fill out a background check, I don't know, but in Pennsylvania, it's over 12,000 background checks that's denied a year. So, you got folks knowing they can't get a firearm and they're still filling out the application, trying to, and that's how bad it is. And we're working on policy, whereas, when you think, should we add punishment for that? Should be jail time for that? But then you also got to step back and think, who are we jailing? If we do that, we're gonna be jailing a lot of youth, a lot of African Americans. I mean, it's really a touchy subject. And in this city, you got different. Me personally, I feel like you got different organizations you got different organizations coming into the city. You really got to understand gun violence. Like I said at the last event, I lost a friend at the age of 22. I lost my best friend at the age of 22. And I remember going through it. I remember being in a house, not knowing what to do. I remember everybody in the neighborhood looking at me like, what's your next move? You know, like that's just the pressure of growing up in urban neighborhoods. And I remember just crying a lot, and I remember being confused. And one thing I always say is I don't remember any organization knocking on my door talking to me. I feel like if we have to help each other, we have to build leaders and champions in our own neighborhoods to step up to really, you know, be big brothers. I remember what kept me off the edge is the older guys knocking on my door telling me like, listen, man, I've been there before. It's not the route you want. You know what I mean? It wasn't no organizer from this organization or this organization or this organization. So me personally, I believe within we got to build champions within our own community. I know last year Pennsylvania gave a lot of money to organizations with street cred, which I thought was really dope. You know what I mean? Organizations ran by guys that grew up in Philadelphia, that made a change in Philadelphia. And I can't say it's working because, I mean, as you see, you watch the news like I do. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I can honestly say that I don't know what's going to make this city a better place. I just feel like, you know, we have to come up with more prevention and coping skill programs for coping skills for youth. I feel like, you know, it's the youth that's really misguided in the city. And me being from the city, there's so much pain in the city. It's so much pain. You got to understand that this person is dealing with pain from a loved one, lost loved one. This person is dealing with pain from a lost loved one. And in the city, when you living in poverty, there's only certain ways you could honestly deal with pain. You know, you tend to take it out on each other. You tend to do foolish stuff. Me personally, I know neighborhoods that been like going bad on with each other, going to war with each other before they was born, you know, since the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and they kind of like born into this life, you know. But your uncle killed my uncle in the 70s and in the 80s and 90s. And it's going to keep going on. It's really streets in North Philly that live like that. You know, they born into gang violence, you know. And so we nip that. But I feel like it's going to be a continuing thing. I mean, I feel like policy is a big thing. Yeah, we have to work on policy. We have to work on new laws. But then again, I look back at if we put all these new laws out here, who are we gelling? We gelling our own kind. We gelling everybody, and they're not aware of what's going on. They don't have no understanding of what's going on. So I feel like we had to build a better bridge of understanding before we just build all this policy and throw this on folks that have no knowledge of what's going on. And I feel like, you know, the city has been hit with so much already, you know. So like I said, it's an everyday fight. But right now I'm working on building a coalition with an organization leader at the table from each organization, and we all get on one common agenda. So when we do go talk to these elected officials, we're all not jumping over each other. We're all on the same page. Like, listen, this is what we need done, and this is going to better our community. And any comments?
I mean, I have a ton, but I don't want to dominate the conversation of other people who have things that they would like to say.
I actually had a little question. So I know myself and a lot of other people are really sort of against the prison system. And so it kind of scares me because I do want gun reform, but I also want criminal justice reform. And so and I know that you just talked about this, but how do you balance those two? And what is your organization doing to kind of combat both of those issues?
I mean, my organization, they looking on building a policy of holding accountability. You know, they believe in holding police accountable. They have the understanding that, you know, working on certain policies and endorsing certain policies will have to look like, you know, they are trying to gel the youth or the urban community. So we try like to stay in the way about it. Like every conversation we have, we come back to that, for the community. And I'm the most one that really speak on it because I'm in the community working with a lot of policy people. But we're big on that. They understand it at Ceasefire PA that if we do push these policies, we're hurting the community. So we're working every day to find ways around that. And like I said, I'm really big on criminal justice reform too. I really that's a really big thing dearly to my heart. But yeah, Ceasefire PA, they really care about it. I mean, like we talk about it all the time. They working on it.
So we actually have a comment from our live stream, and it says, how do you feel about gun buyback as a measure to reduce availability of firearms?
I agree with it. I agree with it. I agree with anything that it gets some of these guns off the streets that won't jail our folks, that won't jail our citizens, that won't put us in a whole nother position that we're trying to get out of. Like you said, we're working on criminal justice reform in the state. There's no reason to add on to it. So yeah, of course, I'm 100% for that. I feel like they need to build a new way to get some of these guns off the streets other than jail time. At this point in Philadelphia, like, what do you do with a guy that got 2 strikes, that got a firearm on him, and he really don't want to go to jail because our prison system is the worst, So his life is like back against the walls. Either, I get caught with this gun because I can die out here with it, without it, or do I sit in jail for the rest of my life? So he has to make a quick choice, and that choice has to be made in 0.3 seconds once that cop asks you. So it's just a lot, I believe in community first, always.
Look, I have a question for you, and it might seem ridiculous because of the conversation that we're having, but hearing you speak and remembering the things that I've been in, like first time I was ever a victim of gun violence was at the age of 7. So it's like one of these things where people don't understand. It's almost normal. It's almost normalized in the communities that we come from. And like you said, in Philly, we have a saying, it's better to be caught with it than without it. So you rather do the time, you rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. And that's a painful model of life, but that's really how people go about it. So my question for you is, do you believe that people really understand the impact of what guns have on the community? Because I have seen people who've been killed. I've seen people who've been hurt. I've seen people who pulled the trigger. I know people on both sides of the gun. And I think a lot of people kind of fetishize it or fantasize it, and they don't really understand. They don't see the mothers crying. They don't see the blood in the street. They don't see these small caskets for these little kids. Like, they don't see these things, but they just hear about it. So it seems so far away when really it's right here. So do you think people really understand the impact that guns have on communities?
Yes and no. I mean, I have been with some organizations that listen to community, and I've been with some organizations that straight policy. They figure, this the way it should be, and this is what we're gonna work on. But ceasefire, I think they're like in between. Ceasefire is in between. They start a new organization team. There used to be a whole all policy. They start an organization team. They putting boots on the ground, and they trying to they hire organizers in each city, trying to understand the city and what the city needs. So I feel like that's a great step in the right direction. But like I said before, Maurice, when growing up, when I lost my best friend, there were, it wasn't an organization knocking on my door. It wasn't an organization that helped me get over that bump. It was community. You know what I mean? So I feel like, organizations have to invest in community and bringing awareness and building heroes and building champions and giving them the tools they need to, bring that forth in their own communities. Any other? You got a question, Adriana? Like you itching for one. You have one?
I just want to say thank you for sharing. I've been a commuter. I was a commuter the first time I joined Drexel, and being a commuter really made me explore other sides of Philadelphia, like West Philly and North Philly. And like you mentioned, like those are communities. If you walk around the streets and if you really do go, you will see families and kids literally. They know each other. So they'll go into a store and they'll say hi to each other. So people often forget that these are people living their lives there. They have to be in those environments every day, and somehow families are still making it, like students are still going with it. I remember I also went to North Philly to a high school because I was promoting a program that I used to work at. And as soon as we walked into the high school, it was completely a different environment. But also there was an auditorium full of students, high school students, and there were people in the auditorium literally telling the students, "Don't go to jail. Like this is not a good route. Like it's not the best option. Don't carry that gun." So that was basically mind blowing for me because it was a new environment, but how clear they were because there was people who already experienced these things, and you had to tell high schoolers who are supposed to be studying, but they have to also be dealing with this in the back of their heads. So yeah.
I agree. One thing I can say, Maurice, well, as far as I know, I am the only African American at my organization. And I got a phone call from a lot of my coworkers today, just checking up on me and asking me, how I'm doing and how I feel about, stuff that happened last night. I felt like that was great. You know what I mean? I felt like that was great. And it shows, but my mind totally slipped. I'm sorry, guys. But I, I tried not to watch the video last night, and I watched it earlier, and it worries me a lot. Of course, it worries me a lot. But my job, they asked me how I felt, and I really didn't know how to feel. I mean, I really felt like they were shocked when I gave them the answer, and I gave them the honest answer was, I think I might became immune to this. I might be used to this because I watched everybody around me be shocked, like, "Are you okay? Okay?" And I'm just like, I'm like, and that's not good. I have a son, and later that day, I almost broke down thinking about it after I got off the phone with them of what I just said, and it made me think about it more. Like I got a son. How do I raise my son to these new rules or the street rules or whatever thing you call it? I mean, my son's he's going to get what he's going to get from American education, but American education is not going to keep him alive. He needs a different type of education. I have to give him a different type of education to stay alive. He has to take a couple extra courses of daddy school in order for me to feel comfortable with him staying alive. And that's where it hurt me at. It hit me like, you know what? We really don't have a fair chance, And I was so used to not having a fair chance that I think that was why my response was like that to my job earlier. I'm just so used to it. But just to see others care so much, it remind me that we're not living right, So it's it's an everyday thing. I'm kind of still going through the process of what happened and watching that video because it's like heartbreaking. I have a mother on my own, and when you see that, I think about my mother, so I know everybody, everybody in the city thinking like that could be me, that could be my mom. What's stopping that from being me? I done had many interactions with the police where we wasn't eye to eye. They came to try to de-escalate the scene. I'm trying to tell them the story. They're really not trying to hear nothing. It starts an argument. And I'm thinking like, what if any of them arguments and de-escalations I had with law authority coming up, what if anything would have escalated and, I could have been killed, you know what I mean? That shows me, like watching that video shows me how close I was to, it being me. And like I said, it's an everyday struggle. I just started on with this job a month ago, personally. And I'm really more interested in seeing what happens and what stands they take as you guys are. Personally. But like I said, it's heart wrenching. Like I had to give myself the energy and the ambition to even do this today after I seen that. It was like, do I want to talk about gun violence? Do I want to, because my job as an organizer is to amplify the voices of people impacted by gun violence. So every day I'm out here talking to people who have lost loved ones, who have been shot, or who have me having stories with everybody, with all these type of peoples and me encouraging them to write letters to the editor and stuff like that. Kind of bothers me because now I got to go home every night and process everything I heard. I got to go to sleep, and it's like, you know, you surround yourself. It's like surrounding yourself by death, and it's a lot. And this city is such psychologically a lot to grow up. I mean, I'm quite sure you know what I mean, but like I said, I lost a lot of friends due to gun violence. I mean, started off as a pack of 10, and now we all grown. As maybe 4 of us left. You know, like 2 is in jail for years, long times, and the rest is dead. You know, and that's just like, and it's like, I tell you guys that story, and it's like, but if I go to another neighborhood and tell that story, it's not really going to resonate too much with so many people because they going through the same thing. It's like, you're not saying nothing, bro. Like, you're not, you know, like, you're not saying nothing. Then it becomes war stories. How many folks you lost, how many folks I lost, and it doesn't add up. And the way of life of living in Philadelphia is just really, really bad. But like I said, I come immune to it. I come immune to gun violence. I come immune to you know, living in areas where, you know, carrying a gun is cool to the youth. It's so much not cool, but you feel protected by carrying your own firearm. You feel like you have to protect yourself. When you just know the police department is not going to protect you, and you feel like, you know, you got guys that you got misunderstandings with in the neighborhood, and your protection is just out the window. I mean, what else options are you know, else options out there for folks? But like I said, it's going to be an everyday fight with gun violence in Philadelphia, and they tend to say it's going to get worse before it get better. And like you see, we're number 2 in the nation, you know, in gun violence after Chicago, and Chicago is pretty bigger than us, you know. So I don't know, you know, we got a new police commissioner, you know, a whole lot of stuff. We're trying a whole lot of new stuff in Philadelphia, and I feel like, you know, we just got to build leaders in our community. We got to get all these organizations on the same step for our youth. We got to. I feel like we got to. That's the only way our voice is going to be heard in Harrisburg. I mean, you have 10 organizations going to Harrisburg saying different things, and there's 10 going to different things, and they laughing at us after we leave because they like, these guys don't even know what they want. They know what they need, but they don't know how to get past, you know. So it's like we all got to work together now. We all got to go in there on the same force, the same voice, and let it be known that, you know, we need help. We need help in Philadelphia. We need help in Pennsylvania.
I actually have another question or comment I would like to throw out there. And like, growing up in Philly, sometimes it feels like it's a perpetual black cloud above it. You know, like, we don't really always get the chance to see the light. So sometimes we turn to the wrong things in order just to help us get through. You know, I like to tell, this wasn't the wrong thing, but I like to tell people that Tupac meant way more to me than a lot of historical black people, because without the music, I would have probably been doing a lot of dumb things. And I just want to ask you, what type of relief, what do you say to your child in order to provide some type of relief? What do you say to yourself doing this work every single day? What are some things that you probably want to share with us so that we can kind of get through it all? Because I think when you're in it so much and you take a step back, like, the first time I ever realized Philadelphia was different, I had to leave Philadelphia and see other places. I didn't realize that everybody didn't go through this. Even in the suburbs, I was like, wait, y'all, like, one of my jokes, that's a joke, but I do it, I laugh instead of crying, is, when the last time you've been in a shootout? That's how I used to approach people. And they'd be like, what? I'm like, yeah, this is how we live out here. And people think like, what? Like, what do you mean? They don't even know what a gun sounds like. And we can usually tell you what calibration it is by the echo. And that's crazy. That's absolutely insanity. And we don't even get to a point where we can really live our lives in a fruitful way. Like, I'm surprised. I thought I was going to die at 16. I never thought I was going to live past 16, not because I didn't want to, but because it did not look good for me. It looked grim out there. It wasn't because I was necessarily doing anything. It's just the area that I didn't know too many people who made it past that point, who was living the way I was living. So when it comes to relief, like, when it comes to whether it be words of affirmation, things that you do, getaways, whatever it is, what do you say to your child? What do you do and say to yourself? And do you have anything that you can share with us?
I mean, honestly, I'm probably saying, personally, I'm saying to myself probably whatever every Philadelphia is saying. Personally, I feel like, you know, my son is only 3, and I look at him, and I be like, is he able to go through the same things that I went through and be the same person? And I honestly feel like no, and that's showing like, I don't know if that's showing that me not having faith in my son or me just knowing what I've been through and what this city is turning into, he's 3, so I can't really talk to him and tell him this and that. But in my heart, like every other citizen, you're looking at your child and you're saying, I got to protect them by any means necessary. That's why I think about that mother, because in my mind, I'm thinking I got to protect my child from the cops already. And that's a prime example of how that mother felt. And the whole world seeing that, because your mommy's there, you still can die. Like it's just crazy. So I mean, I'm at the point where I don't really talk to my son because he's young, he's 3, but I get to the point where I just find myself staring at him and coming to understand this to myself. Whereas, I'm like, I gotta keep my son. I gotta keep my son safe. I gotta keep him up on news. I gotta keep him up on everything. I don't want him to find anything out new on the streets. I want to be the guy to be, because me growing up without a father, the streets became my father. I learned everything from the streets. And luckily that the older guys that knocked on my door that pushed me the right way, they were positive guys, because it was 10 negatives guys to every one positive guy. So luckily I had the good guys knock on my door and approach me other than, other knuckleheads in my neighborhood, which is they out there, man, they out there. I got so many little brothers in the neighborhood, 15, 20 little brothers, they call me every day. We talk about everyday life. And I just imagine, what if I was a negative person? What if I would be a reason 20 assassins? You know what I mean? So it's all about the older guys in the neighborhood and just making them champions and having them guys step up, because that's who the youth is following after. You know what I mean? So I remind myself that I don't want the youth to have to go through the same things I went through. And I try to be that gateway. I try to be that older guy that was there for me to these youth. So I try to be positive. I try to always have an open ear. I try to always be there. When these guys reach out to me about employment, and they come from neighborhoods where working is not cool. So if they want an outlet to go work, I feel like I have to make that right, because if I don't, it's so easy for them guys to become drug dealers. Like it's at their front door, like, I mean, every corner, almost every corner in North Philly, you have, 5 people standing selling drugs, at your corner store, the same store that you have to go through numerous times a day to get things you need. So they become a product of your environment. So me, I just try to get their mind out their environment. I try to do things that they say we never could do. You know what I mean? And I try to show them that it's possible. It really is possible to be positive in your neighborhood and really be somebody. They all off, a lot of them go off that, I'm macho man, I'm, this and that, Arnold Schwarzenegger stuff, stuff like that, macho young kid stuff. And it seems like, being positive is just not cool. It's just not cool, like in Philadelphia, so me just trying to make positive the new gangster, so positivity, new gangster is my thing.
We have another question from, oh, sorry.
No, I was about to do the same thing as you. You're good to go.
Okay, awesome. So what specifically can we do as citizens to support and promote the values of Ceasefire PA?
Sorry, Ron, can you repeat that one more time? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the question was, what can we do as citizens to support and promote the values and the mission of Ceasefire PA?
I would say sign petitions, call your elected officials and find out where they stand on lost and found. Find out where they stand out on ERPO. Find out where they stand out on gun safety. Push the button, right? I mean, you talk to people that have been impacted by gun violence, encourage them to write to their editor, their local newspaper, and hopefully it can get published. And when them legislators waking up early in the morning, they tend to open up their paper, they see a nice little letter from somebody that's been impacted by gun violence that maybe might change their heart, and they'll go to work that day and push the green button that we've been waiting to get pushed for years. Events, I'm putting together a lot of events throughout the city. Right now it's virtual, but just getting everybody on the same page, getting 1,000 signatures every chance I get to send up Storytelling is a big thing. Video, getting your story out. We have a powerful story. I love to video it. I love to get it out on our website. Just bringing awareness to the community. Being that guy in the community to bring awareness and letting them know that we're working on a solution to the problem.
And then I had another question kind of going off of that, but is there any specific House or Senate bills that you want us to, call our representatives about?
Yes, I have the Extreme Risk Protection Order, the ERPO, which I talked to you guys about, which is big from where you're from, with mass shootings and suicides are really up where you're from. So I believe ERPO is a big thing, and that is HB, House Bill 1075, State Bill 90. Then I have the Risk Protection Order. Then I have the Lost and Found, which is HB 1288, and that's big in Philadelphia. So you should also reach out to your state senator and your state representative and find out how they feel about on them issues. And if they're not backing those issues, we recommend that you guys push them, or at least get them to read about it more, so they can have a change of heart.
Can you repeat those one more time? I'm going to put them in the chat and then I'll post it to the Facebook too.
Okay, I have Lost and Found, which is House Bill 1288, and I have Extreme Risk Protection Order, also known as Bill 90.
Well, thank you.
Any more questions, guys?
I think I have one more, Kallel. I have a bunch of them, but I'm gonna say one more for you. In your honest opinion, where do you see Philadelphia going into the near future? Like, with everything that you're saying on the streets, all of the things that you're trying to do with legislation, all of the people who you're mentoring and seeing, and just growing up in the city, where do you see Philadelphia in the near future, and where do you hope Philadelphia ends up in the long term?
I see Philadelphia in the future like a true Philadelphian will always see a city of brotherly love, a city where people is helping each other, a city where people is keeping each other safe, a city whereas a whole community is raising a child. Just the old Philadelphia that I heard about before I was born. Just more community based, more trust with. Not only trust with community police, but trust within community and community. Our youth. I love to see, different things that I see in different cities. Ice skating rings, and I would love to see, people in these urban communities have a fair chance of being something great. Do I see that in the future? I do. I feel like, that's what we're fighting for. I feel like our generation, I feel like we have a good generation. We're in a good generation of some true fighters, some true believers. So I feel like, we're gonna make out a lot better than history, so I guess all I can do is pray, honestly.
Thank you. And last call for questions or comments before we close everything out. All right. So I want to say, Kallel, thank you for being here with us. Trust me, I feel you on how hard it was to even come. And this is my department. So I can only imagine what it's like on your end of the house. I want to thank everybody here on Facebook, everybody here on Zoom for coming to another Chai Chat. We do these bi-weekly. But would any of the Chai Chat team like to say what the next one is and when it will be? Pressure, putting it on you all.
Zach can announce that, but I'm just really quickly going to share. We've said it 1,000 times. We're really exhausting it, but we have our Instagram, and it's Drexel Chai Chats, and we also have our Facebook, Drexel Chai Chats. But on our Instagram, we've added some really, really helpful links. So you can't see it. We've added some really, really, I do this every single week. I'm like, here it is. But we have some really, really good resources. I'm going to put a bunch of stuff about ceasefire up there, but we have stuff about domestic violence, since it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we have stuff about voter registration. So obviously this all ties in together to gun violence. So make sure to check that out. And Zach, go ahead and announce the next one.
Yeah, sure. So our next Chai Chat is in 2 weeks, so November 10th, same time, same place, different Zoom link, same time. And we are talking with, and we're talking about food insecurity.
Thank you. And one more plug for Ceasefire PA. And a lot of these other organizations, historically, they've been underfunded. So if you have the opportunity and the means, please donate to Ceasefire PA and other organizations who are doing similar work. This type of work is not necessarily popular. That's why they tend to be highly underfunded. But as you can see from this conversation, it is much needed. So if you have the opportunity, the means, or you know anybody who has a few extra refunds in their pocket, please direct them to Ceasefire PA to donate, and that's honestly what it's about in this country, sadly enough, is that we put our money where our morals are, and we need to start putting our money into the pockets of the people doing the work. So with that being said, I'll say thank you again for being here. Truly, this meant a lot to me. Hopefully you all got something from it, and we're going to close it out now. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Nice meeting you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Yes, it's great. Thank you.
Bye.